Hello and welcome to in the North Bank. Before we get into today's show, could you please drop a like, subscribe, hit the bell button to stay up to date with all the notifications, and that's it really. Just try and enjoy this podcast. Today with me is my podcast brother from another mother. It's Mark. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm brilliant, bro. How are you? I'm
Very
excited
good,
for
thank
this.
you.
I'm excited for this.
Yeah, so a little bit about this. Today is your dream Arsenal squad. It's a podcast about what could you do with an Arsenal squad challenging for the quad with a 300 million transfer kitty. What would you give Arteta? So we're going to have 3 goalkeepers, 2 right backs, 2 left centre backs, 2 right centre backs, 2 left backs, 2 defensive midfielders, 2 box to box midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders, 2 right wingers, 2 left wingers, 2 strikers, and then you're going to have to promote an academy goalkeeper and 2 academy players alongside that, Mark. So, shall we get straight into it and let's see what you've come up with?
Absolutely. Here we go.
So player sales.
Yes, I've got a controversial one. Benjamin White. Now, my reason behind that, I value him at £50 million. And my reason behind that is not that I don't like Ben White. I certainly do, but I am absolutely sick this season of playing inverted right backs. And although that Ben's coming back from an injury, etc., we have seen Saka getting isolated against 3 defenders constantly. So I have brought in someone that I believe gives us another dimension and also helps Saka on the right wing.
Okay.
Trossard, I've tried to keep my valuations as promised as possible. I'm bringing in a left winger. I have a choice between selling Trossard or Martinelli. For me, Trossard's the obvious one. He's got a year left on his contract. And again, I've tried to keep the valuation as plausible as I possibly can of 25 million.
Get just under what we bought him for. Not
yeah, exactly. Bad. Yeah, which is a good fee. Then we've got Kieran Tierney and Jorginho, but both know they've already signed pre-contracts, amazing servants for the club. KT, I would have loved to stay, but like it's injuries that's held him back. He does offer us something different, and I love my Scottish brother, but it is time to move on, and he's going to Celtic. All the best. Jorginho signed for £12 million. But bottom when Elmeni went out and he was his replacement. I think he's done absolutely fantastic. Deserves his free contract to Flamingo. And I'm going to wish him every bit of success as we move on. Now, my valuations drop at this point, Richard, massively. Tomiyasu, injury-prone player. He's not kicked the ball this season for Arsenal. I love him, versatile, brilliant one-on-one defender, as you pointed out previous. However, I'm bringing his valuation, half in his valuation, because of the injuries. Zinchenko, again, another amazing servant to the club, but again, injuries came back. Anything that you want to?
Yeah, it's just that I've seen just while we had that little thing in between the doing mine and yours was that Tomiyasu is reportedly out to January 26th.
Yeah. But I didn't know that, but it just
no, but it's just come up on my.
It is the most bizarrest one that I've ever seen. And to be honest, I think you can get 30 million for him, but I've really dropped his valuation. Tomiyasu, a fit Tomiyasu, for me, he's £50 million player. But you just can't keep him fit, and I don't know if that's due to the style of play, the intensity, etc. But whatever it is, we're going to be lucky to get £30 million back from him. And I'm like, and I'm trying to be realistic. Tavares never worked at Arsenal. He's smoking over in Serie A. He's doing absolutely amazing. We've got an obligation. That 20 million fee could actually rise if you get sold on, because there's a sell-on clause as well. So yeah, that's why I've held that there. Wakonga, transfer market has put him down as worth 22 million. My God, I'd be happy with 10 million. Just get the guy off my books. Hasn't worked out at all. Even the loan moves have not worked out. Reece Nelson, brilliant player, in my opinion. Again, injury prone. Be lucky if we get £10 million for him. Jesus, high wages, injuries. Just yeah, like honestly, you'd be lucky to get £20 million, and someone to take on the wages. Marquinhos, like you said as well in year one, I think you sold him as well, Richard. High hopes, not worked out at Arsenal, not worked out alone. I still think that we could get at least 6 million for him. I do believe that. So yeah,
Yeah, so there's a couple here you haven't mentioned. Players return to their own clubs. Sterling and Neto. Is there anything you want
yeah.
to touch on those?
Neto was an absolute disaster of a signing for a goalkeeper. I don't know what Arsenal were thinking about. One, he was cup tied for the Carabao Cup, so became pointless. And two, even when you wanted to, you could have played him in the FA Cup. We were knocked out early. Didn't get the opportunity. The brief appearances that we did see him this season, I didn't. There was nothing to write home about whatsoever. So that's that. And Raheem Sterling, yeah, Arsenal Football Club, if you are watching this, you should have gave £100,000 a week back to the homeless in London. At least then you would have been giving some back to the community, because Raheem Sterling's gave me absolutely nothing. He's a championship player, if not a first division player at best. Absolutely a waste of £100,000 a week. And you shouldn't have been anywhere near our football club.
Okay, that's fair enough. So we're going on to players you bring in. Who would you bring in first?
Arteta loves Garcia. Distribution wise, Richard, you picked up on this. I think you went for Garcia as well. It looks like this deal will be done. A value him around 20 million. I think it's possible that we could possibly get him a bit cheaper. Distribution, exact same as Rhea. I actually see Garcia coming in and actually challenging Rhea. I don't think it's a dead cert that Rhea will be number one. I think Arteta likes the fact of not a number one and not a number two. He does like the competition. Ramsdale was unhappy to do that. He's went to Southampton and he'll be looking for a move. For me, Garcia could come in and he could really push Rhea. I think he's an outstanding goalkeeper and a better defence around him as well, Richard. I think that you would see like a higher level from him, and Rhea pushing him as well. I think he's absolutely outstanding goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Who would you have in after him if it wasn't him?
Well, it has to be him for me. I'm like my cards are right in. But my third choice goalkeeper is going to be Carl Hein. I'm like bringing him back from loan. He's had a pretty good, decent season. He's not in a very good side, but he has had that year's experience. And I want Hein behind Garcia and also Rhea, and learning from them massively. So I don't think a loan. He's had that one move. I want to see him getting pushed to the next level. I've got some stocks in Hein, and I think that he could be a brilliant goalkeeper, but he needs to learn from these two. That's kind of my thinking, mate.
That's fair enough. And you're next player into into the squad.
I've sold Ben White, and I'm bringing in Nico Williams from Forest. He's valued around 20 million. For me, pacey right back. He's like a wing back. He would really take the pressure off Osaka. And he's got the pace to get back as well, Richard. I love this kid. He's young. Athletic, quite powerful, and he creates chances. He creates GA for other players. So I really like this kid, and yeah, that's it's just a different option for Arsenal, and I do think Arteta could really bring him on to the next level. But it gives Arsenal a different option on the right hand side, Richard.
Yeah, it was certainly a slightly left field pick, but a very decent pick. About I think I've enjoyed his performances for
Yeah,
Forest, and he's one of those reasons why they are where they are.
100%.
So, who's your next pick to come into the
This
squad?
kid is unbelievable. And Richard Hoyson, Bournemouth, £50 million release clause, could be paid in 3 installments. It's all sitting in there. There's teams like Real Madrid. Everyone's looking at this kid. He is absolutely outstanding. Now, Richard, me and you done a comparison of him and Saliba, and the figures they were close. The stats were actually closer. So Saliba played more games. I think it was 33 games at the point of recording, Richard, and Huyson had only played 24. What he is doing at this age in the Premier League is absolutely like it's incredible. And we've got to remember,
Yeah,
Saliba was actually over in France in a worse league. Yes, he was picking up young player of the season, etc. He did do amazing things. This guy's ceiling for me, Richard, is just going to be top notch. I think he is the next big defender in the world. I honestly, out of all the kids coming through in defence, I think this guy is the actual guy, and I think he elevates us to the next level, mate. I really do.
yeah. I think he'll be a regular in the Spanish starting team,
Yeah,
and he'll be a guaranteed starter there very soon
a
myself.
hundred
So
percent, mate. 100%. I've just got so much stock in this kid. He will leave Bournemouth this season, and £50 million is a steal, Richard. It is an absolute
yeah,
steal.
yeah. Madrid, Chelsea, and Liverpool also on this one. So it's going to be a tough one, but I agree. You've got to be in that
You do,
conversation.
Richard. 100%. I'd be angry at Arsenal if they weren't in the conversation. To be honest.
Yeah. So next player
Yes,
through the doors.
Martin Zubimendi. It's already been dropped. Here we go. As you said as well, Richard, and in your breakdown, in the Spanish side, him and Rodri they just shut it down. And for me, they were a reason that Spain actually won the Euros. I don't watch enough of Real Sociedad, but I do know that Real Madrid have been after him. I think he's been linked with, like obviously Liverpool's, City, all the top clubs. It's there for a reason. He's an outstanding defensive midfielder. I think he could play the 6 and the 8, Richard, but I think Arsenal will bring him in just as a 6. And he does it calmly. He does it very calmly, and he could dictate the midfield, slow the game down when it needs to be slowed down, but he could also progress the ball as well. So for me, yeah, it looks like it's going to be the first signing that Arsenal are going to make, and it's an exciting one for me, Richard.
Yeah, as I said, I rate him in the top 5 defensive
Yeah.
midfielders in the world at the moment, which
He's
is very
coming.
high
He's just
company.
coming into
So
his prime as well, Richard. We're getting him at that
yeah,
absolute brilliant time. So yeah, top
yeah,
player.
I think this is a solid one. Next player in.
Yes. If Arsenal get this, there's an argument. He's had an argument in Real Madrid, and reports are coming out he will not play for Real Madrid again. There's been a fight with Jude Bellingham and also Mbappe. Mbappe obviously unsettles any dressing room. Rodrigo would instantly go in as my second favourite player at Arsenal if we were able to get our hands on him. I absolutely love him. Beyond, like, he excites me. He gets me off my feet, Richard. Arsenal said, Edu said a couple of seasons back, we'll get to a point where we just sprinkle a bit of gold dust over the top of the side. This is my gold dust, Richard.
Yeah. Well, which wing are you putting
I'm putting
him
him
on?
on the right wing, but do you know what? Regardless if it's on the right wing, the left wing, I've got him in the side, and believe me, mate, if I'm Arteta, I'm going to pick him every week. I'm going to find a system to get him and Saka on the pitch.
Yeah, because I know he plays out on the right for
Madrid,
Real Madrid, but that's because Vinny Junior is there.
yeah,
He is more naturally suited to the left
yeah,
wing. But as I said, but the thing is we need to be in for these players when they come available. You've got to be knocking on that door
100%.
and trying, even if you don't get them over the
I love,
line.
honestly, I love him. I really
Yeah,
love him. And
yeah,
he'd be the first, if I could only bring in one winger this summer, it is Rodrigo, 100%. I absolutely love this kid.
right. So, who have you got for us next?
Right. Raphael, yeah, I'm greedy. This is my dream 11, Richard, right? I'm greedy. I'm greedy. Outstanding season at AC Milan. Again, quick, amazing player. Big money, big money as well. If I could only have one winger, I'm bringing in Rodrigo just before him, but he is certainly second on that list. Outstanding, outstanding, and he elevates Arsenal. This is what I'm looking for, Richard. When we came up with the project of being able to create our side, we had to try and be realistic, but at the same time, it's to elevate the club, to actually go for every trophy. And having these two wingers come into my side, I'm like Richard. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I like Leo. I had him in my one, so I agree. He elevates. He raises the ceiling and the floor because you put Martinelli on the bench. You're not looking at a Trossard, so
100%.
or a young kid.
100%.
So
I think he'd bring the best out of Martinelli as well, because Martinelli would be pushed to the next level. I think that Trossard
yeah,
and Martinelli have kind of cancelled each other out, so we need to just get that next level, and I think he's that.
and it also afford Saka or Rodrigo on the right that space
Exactly.
to do
Exactly.
their stuff.
Like, well, teams are currently putting like three defenders around or three players around Saka, so he can't do anything. They wouldn't be able to do that if we had someone of this caliber on the left wing. They wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do that.
So next player.
Kevin De Bruyne, and I know that you picked him as well, Richard. Free transfer for me. This is an absolute no-brainer. He has absolutely won everything in the game. He's outstanding. I think you couldn't start him week in and week out on the Premier League, Richard. Like, so I'm not going to like suggest that in the slightest. But as a free transfer, I think that we certainly offer him a couple of year deal, a 2-year deal on the current money that he's receiving at Man City. You give him a big sign-on fee, and he would also push Odegaard to upper level. And I think Odegaard's needing that. I think there's some players at Arsenal that are probably just got a little bit too comfortable. And
Yeah.
bringing in a player of the caliber of De Bruyne would elevate that even further. Now, it would also bring intensity to training, and it would also show a standard to our academy players of what you need to strive towards. So he is an absolute perfect role model. He's captain of been captain of Man City, he's been captain of Belgium. You're bringing in leadership qualities, you're bringing in winning mentality. This, for me, is an absolute no-brainer of a deal.
Yeah, I was similar, and the thing is, you could play him in before the Champions League and after the Champions League, or you could play him in the Champions League and have Odegaard either side
Exactly.
of games either side. It gives you that versatility, and what a player to be able to
Do you
do
know
that
what?
with.
100%, Richard. And see, the thing is, see, like this season, and I'm not knocking Odegaard. I love Odegaard, but Odegaard through injury as well as other factors has had not as good a season by his own standard. We've saw glimpses, but we've not seen Martin Odegaard the last season. I think if you bring in a player
Yeah,
like Kevin De Bruyne, you could then go and bench Odegaard and say, like, step up. And I don't think, like, it's not Ethan's fault, but Ethan's a young kid, so Ethan is not going to
yeah,
push Odegaard to that level. This signing does push Odegaard to that level.
yeah. I think so. Anyone else you're
My
bringing
number one
in?
striker, Richard. My absolute number one. Now, people think the numbers that I'm putting up are crazy. I'm trying to be realistic with transfer fees. I'm going to show you why once we get to the next slide. Isaac is out of all the strikers out there that are possibly available. And when I say available, if you slap £150 million down on Newcastle's table, they are not ignoring it. Although they're one of the richest clubs in the world, they still have PSR and financial fair play to run by. They can't just go and spend the money that they want to spend. 150 million to them could bring them a number of really good quality players and bring in. I don't think Newcastle knock it back. Isaac, I don't even have to say anything about him, Richard. He is absolutely phenomenal striker. Premier League proven. Could come in, he could absolutely change Arsenal. I think the low blocks have been a major problem for Arsenal. I think a player like Isaac, with his dribbling abilities, his power, his pace, I think that he could absolutely change that for us, and he knows where the goal is, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, for me, other than Haaland, Lewandowski, Kane,
You're talking
and Mbappe, you're not getting any better.
exactly.
It's that simple,
Yeah,
and you've got to at least do your best to try and bring him in, haven't you?
100%. We should be having that conversation, Richard, and that's where I want Arsenal to be. I don't want like
Yeah,
I'm not like mocking players, but the likes of Vieira and like these experiment players that could be on the provincial of breaking into the site. I don't want that now. Just don't give me the ready-made players. Get them into our football club. There was a time that Arsenal were losing players, Richard. The likes of Nazare, etc. Man City and that were bullying us. Liverpool with Chamberlain. Um, we were bullied. Let's us bully teams now. It's our time to bully teams.
yeah. I think the Carabao Cup game probably highlighted why you have
Yeah,
him,
hundred
because
percent.
that half volley out of nothing, it was a half chance, and he scores, and that wins Newcastle the Carabao
Yeah,
Cup. He's the difference
yeah,
maker,
yeah.
and that's what we
Hundred
need
percent.
to go to the next level.
Absolutely.
So, what have you got for us
Right. So
next?
I've got my spend. It's 465 million. If we go back to, which is ridiculous spend for one season, but if we go back to player sales, sorry, one too many. Richard, I'm bringing in 174 million. So
Yeah,
that would bring me under the actual war chest that's been put there. So that would bring me under
yeah,
300 million that's reported to Arsenal have got. So I've used my 300 million
yeah,
and the player sales, which I've tried to keep the player sales as realistic as possible, and not just for
yeah,
transfer mark the value them up. I've done my own valuation and half some of them because of injuries, etc. But that side to
yeah.
Richard, it just for me, it elevates Arsenal to a new level.
Yeah, I think so too, and I mean, you've got floor raisers and ceiling raisers in there,
Absolutely.
and if I'm Bertha and the owners, and that's my transfer window, you're saying to Arteta, you have to win the Premier League minimum, but I'm wanting at least the treble with that. If you
Yeah,
stay fit, if everyone is fit and available.
100%, Richard, and that is it. There wouldn't, if we were able to add that calibre of players into the Arsenal squad, have that kind of net spend, which is under 300 million once you do the player sales. If we were able to pull that off, Richard, and some of these figures you might get a bit cheaper, the players a bit cheaper. I honestly, there's no hiding place for anyone at Arsenal. Everyone, the Crockies have
Yeah,
done their job. Bert has done his job. I'll take it over to you. Don't produce with that. I'm sorry, it's time to go.
yeah. Now, I think that's fair enough. So, what's your starting
Yeah,
11 here?
well, initially it would definitely be Ray still as number one, but I think Garcia pushes him. We've then got Timber, which this could be flipped between Nico Williams as well, because if I want Bert, I'm going to use Timber. If I want to use the overlap, I'm using Nico. So that could be done. There's a possibility that Saliba could be off to Real Madrid if reports are correct. So I've got Huyson in there. He'll get game time, plenty of game time. I'm not playing Saliba in every minute of every game next season. Hamstrings have flagged up, red flags for that. But if Saliba was to go and we brought Huyson in, I think he would, maybe after the season, automatic replacement. I've got my big Gabriel back in there, my favourite player at Arsenal, and I'm keeping Kivior. So that gives me that. Lewis Kelly's there, and we've got Calafiori as backup, speaks for itself. I've got Saka and Rodrigo. Now, I actually think that Rodrigo could actually bench Saka. He has the capabilities, a world class winger, as is Saka. Both of them are amazing. I would try and find a system where I could fit two of them in this team, if I'm being honest. But however, I don't have to play Saka every minute of every game. I would kind of be able to invert both of them. Then we go into the midfield. I've got Zubimendi backed up by Partey. Partey gets a new contract, but it will be with limited game time. Zubimendi is my guy. Declan's still going to be my box-to-box midfielder. Mourinho, you're going to be my bench player. I apologise. Well, for me, on the left wing, benches Martinelli, but at least, again, you have an adequate replacement to come on. The drop-off would be kind of big, but because I think Wales are a lot better than Martinelli. However, he is a decent player, so nothing wrong with that. De Bruyne and Odegaard, it would start with Odegaard. However, Odegaard, you have a season like you've just had. I'm sorry, but you're giving more game time to De Bruyne, or certainly the big games. You make sure that De Bruyne is playing. If Odegaard isn't backing up, there's no hiding in this team, Richard. That's the thing. Nobody's getting to hide. Isak starts obviously. With the strikers that you mentioned, Havertz is sitting on my bench. Too, I'm nothing against Havertz at all. Perfect replacement if need be, but the squad depth all the way through that side, Richard.
Yeah. So that probably brings us on to the academy players to bring us up to a 25
Yes,
man squad.
but the academy player that you would have obviously seen that I've dropped out in the squad is Ethan Waneri, and he's still going to be in the squad. Showed glimpses of how brilliant that he could be. I don't know what's happened, but the lack of game time showed. So he is still like that academy player to come up into the first team. And I'm going to fast track Max Dowling. I'm going to fast track him, and the reason into the first team. I want him in and around that. This kid is something special, Richard. He is something. What we're seeing from him with the numbers in the academy, etc. I actually find it frightening. How good this kid is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to fast track him because he can only sign scholarship contracts, and there will be other clubs, the big clubs, Real Madrid, Barcelona's, Liverpool's, Man City's, sniffing, and Bayern's sniffing around to try and tempt him over there. So we've got to show him what our plan for him is. and he's making the age groups look so ridiculously easy. He looks like a 25-year-old against kids at some points.
100%, absolutely 100%, Richard. You're right. I think he signed his first pro contract next season, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
So we need to get this kid tied down. He's shown levels. He should be. Arsenal should have him playing in under 21s and then also training and in and around the first team squad for next season.
yeah. I think he's the only reason he hasn't played this season is because of the legalities around his
Yeah,
age.
I think
So
that's right, Richard. If I'm not mistaken, I think Ethan was able to do it because he turned 16 within the season that he was playing in. So he was able to play at the age of 15. But I think Max doesn't turn 16 until next season. So it's later on this year. So therefore, he couldn't be introduced at all.
yeah, which is but I expect to see him next season, especially pre-season, and then maybe an odd cup game here and
Yeah,
there to give him that big game experience and bring him
yeah.
on a bit more. Is there anything else
No,
you wish to
no,
add?
Richard. Just that this is my dream squad, and I believe that it would go on to dominate